Thank you very much. My name is Jody Linklater. I'm from the Nisichawayasihk Cree Nation in northern Manitoba, and I'm glad that I can present here. And basically, I guess my understanding is we have about 5 minutes. So I'm just going to tell you a quick story on basically the title is the evolution of the traditional models of nonprofit versus for-profit hybrid spectrum into a labor market intermediary. And what we did in Nelson House at ATEC is very innovative, and we did it out of necessity. So what we did was back in 2016, we basically we had a not-for-profit organization called ATEC, the Atoskiwin Training and Employment Center of Excellence, and we did what social enterprises do. You know, we created a vision and a mission, stakeholder accountability, and the income reinvested in social programs or operational costs. We wanted to keep the business going, and we were in the business of education. So what happened was there was a dire need for, I guess, to train apprentices, and but ATEC was not in the business of building homes. And so we saw, as an example, a request for a proposal come across the table, and we asked if we could bid on those that opportunity, but we were advised, you know, we weren't allowed. So it really narrowed what we were able to do, and we had to expand, you know, what education should look like to meet the current needs of our citizens. So ATEC decided to start a for-profit sister company of the organization, all housed in the same building space, and it became a for-profit company. And same thing, you know, ATEC and Pewapun, which just means a new day or a new dawn. You know, they had their own vision and mission, and they had, you know, their shareholder accountability, and the profit that they were able to get was redistributed to shareholders, apprentices, instructors, and student wages. So we basically tried to create an environment for the learners that they didn't have to go and look for work, because underneath one roof there was training to employment opportunities, earn as you learn within that space, all owned by the same company of ATEC. And it has proven to, you know, to create a very, you know, good circular economy. And in some cases, we have seen 1,215% return on investment, over $2 million, more than $2 million now stays in the economy, instead of it flowing out to bring in out Southern workers up, and that just goes to the students now instead. So what we did was we were able to blend these two together, and it, you know, this was basically what we called a sustainability equilibrium. So over here we got the training to employment, all underneath one roof, like I said, earn as you learn. And even though they had different visions and different missions, it's still the money that was generated from Pewapun, the for-profit, also rolled back to keep the lights on in the education center. And you know, we were able to pay for more wages for instructors, and it became a very a lifelong learning, I guess, training center, which was able to track students longitudinally through their career, and we still do that now today. So this whole system from a social enterprise became a labor market intermediary. And I kind of explain that here is ATEC is the not-for-profit education provider, and Pewapun Construction is the for-profit employer and sister company of ATEC. Together they created a united goal of being the premier training to employment center involving regional, provincial, national, and international partners. And so here's some of our partners right here. All of them have come together to work and on and, you know, donate, as an example, various grants, funding opportunities to create I guess you could say, a united mission and vision to help Indigenous students gain long-term meaningful employment within the community. And that's what we were able to do with this labor market intermediary. So what we highlight is that a social enterprise is a business dedicated to supporting a particular cause, like employing marginalized youth or newcomers. It endeavors to make a profit that is reinvested in the business, not to shareholders. And a lot of First Nations are pretty good at this. But the labor market intermediary is a network of organizations, including businesses, training centers, unions, maybe some government support, that pools resources together to help workers succeed in the labor market. And so having that united vision and mission, where everybody can agree and get out of silos and start pooling money together to see that gap, those gaps, needs met, is what we were able to do. So thank you very much. That's my presentation.
So thanks for the opportunity to present on the topic of certified energy advisors. This is something that the Manitoba Environmental Industries Association is helping to facilitate a process involving a number of different stakeholders. Okay. For some reason, my slides are not moving along. Sorry.
That's okay. Everybody knows that this happens sometimes. We're all here with you.
Okay, we'll try it this way. Okay, so in terms of some background, MEIA has worked with a number of different organizations in a number of different topics as a sector council, and it has a number of different portfolios, and the area of energy efficiency is one of them. And relative to this, there was a federal announcement providing a large amount of money over 7 years, starting this year, in terms of grants to help people do energy efficient improvements, as well as the discussion about these EnerGuide energy advisors. So to become an EnerGuide energy advisor, this involves a process that requires certain education and classes, etc. And that's what MEIA is working to do, is to create and to prepare the way for this announcement, which we are expecting in April, and to have these energy advisors ready to do the audits. So within the context, we have a number of priorities that called the Greener Homes Initiative from the Government of Canada. Basically, what can we do to increase the efficiency of our built environment? As I said, we're expecting, anyway, this is their information in terms of energy efficient upgrades, as well as a number of other opportunities. The recruitment and training is something that we are working on developing the training process, and this is something supported by and will be certified by NRCan. So just as a quick background, if you buy a refrigerator, you have an EnerGuide sticker on it, and this sticker actually goes on a house. So this gives you your gigajoules per year, and it's a rating, your house's performance, where the energy is consumed. For example, a little zoom in is here. So this EnerGuide rating for houses, which is being used by some new housing builders in Manitoba now, and is very well used in Edmonton right now, in terms of providing rating for hundreds of homes there, where it's starting to impact the real estate market, where people are looking at energy performance as well as whether they like the deck and the countertop. So as far as this goes, NRCan is here. We have in Manitoba right now, we have a single service organization called Prairie House. There may be others that will pop up, and then we have these energy advisors that we are working to train. The role of the EA, or energy advisor, is in a number of different roles. But as you can see, commercial buildings are not within this portfolio at this point. It's mostly new construction and existing houses or MERBs. The advisor training process is 3 steps. There's a foundation level exam, there is an energy advisor exam, and then you have to become affiliated with a local SO, it's called, and then do these housing audits, which then tells the organization whether you're competent to do it. There's quite a bit of knowledge that's required in terms of building science, basic computer skills, getting along with people, and also understanding how to actually do computer modeling of a house. This leads to, so what should we do about it? And I won't get into this later, but I think these presentations are available later, but I found this a very good presentation from Efficiency Canada to look at energy conservation, renovation in terms of cost and in terms of priorities. This training is being developed by a number of organizations, including Efficiency Manitoba, Sustainable Building, Red River College, Prairie House, Atoskiwin Engineering, as well as the Manitoba Construction Sector Council. And let's see, one more slide here. In terms of the whole paradigm, there has to be more than energy audits. There has to be financing, and there has to be a number of inputs that make it possible for homeowners to actually go ahead and do this kind of work. So here's my contact information, and any other questions, comments, happy to respond with some credits here for folks who helped us with the presentation.
I'm Tanya Paulson. I'm the Manager of Programs and Business Development for Manitoba Building Trades and our newly launched Manitoba Building Trades Institute. I'm happy to be here today with Sustainable Building Manitoba, and I'm here to discuss some of the new training opportunities we have this spring at MBTI. So first I'll share a bit about us, then I'll talk about the new training we have available and where we hope to go in the future. So a brief overview of where my organization is coming from. MBT has a membership of over 10,000 unionized skilled trade workers. We're the only construction association in Manitoba that represents workers exclusively, and we participate in advocacy and workforce development on their behalf. So it's of no surprise to anyone here that the way we build is changing. And while we're preparing designers, planners, and engineers to build to new standards and metrics, it's also critical that the men and women on the tools, hands-on on the job site, are prepared and educated as well. It's no good for anyone if a building doesn't meet certification criteria or is overrun with schedule or budget as a result of improper application or installation of materials or specs. So the good news is that for the trades, that the amount of additional training required from a, kind of your average journeyman, your average experienced tradesperson, is probably one of the least amount of upskilling course hours or revisions to existing program curriculum that kind of exists in the space. That doesn't in and of itself lessen the challenge, however. So in our office, we're always looking to do 2 things: collaborate and innovate. And we like to do it in that order. So we want to take an active role in addressing the skills gap in the trades when it comes to sustainable building practices. Early this year, MBTI entered into a partnership with Passive House Canada, and that's our first step in bringing training for the trades to Manitoba. We are the exclusive training delivery partner for the Passive House Trade certification. And we did this for a few reasons. For the early adopters, you could say the early adopter trades persons, you could say it's important that our province has some training available. Passive House is one of the highest certification standards for many different types of buildings. It will likely take a couple of decades for our building codes to reach anywhere close to Passive House, if they even go in that direction. But tradespeople, site supervisors, general contractors, even designers, developers, anyone who's involved in the construction of energy efficient buildings can begin preparing for the code changes so they're ready when they come. And a Passive House trade certification will be at minimum on par and transferable to any green building accreditation, whatever that turns out to be in the future. So on April 21st, our first Passive House for the Trade session starts. It's on Wednesdays in the afternoon. It's 5 weeks, once a week, and it's held online. And we're hoping to have in-person by the fall when we run a fall session. So in this course, people who are actually working in the tradespeople will be learning passive house criteria and principles. They'll learn about building ecology and economic efficiency, construction process and quality assurance, all the thermal insulation, thermal bridge-free construction, windows and air tightness, ventilation and heat supply, and building envelope specialization. So you're going to be building to the point where Daniel can come in with his energy advisors and test that, and it'll all be great. A practical component of the course is included, and participants receive individual material packages actually to follow along with videos and a live session to do the practical. So that's kind of an interesting way that they've been able to kind of incorporate a practical component of the trades training, which is usually pretty difficult to do online. So that should be really exciting. Just in a matter of time, I would just suggest you go check out our website and spread the word. I'm sure lots of people are interested in it. We've already had some people interested in it already. So it's mbtrades.ca/passive house. And I will put it in the chat for everybody, or if Laura doesn't get to it already, but I will do that at some point. So that's the good news. The bad news sort of is that, like many other professions in the green and energy efficiency building space, we're still facing a few key barriers. There's not yet a consensus either nationally or provincially on curriculum or an accreditation standard for green building or green building skills in the trades. There have been past models like Green Pro out of the state of New York, and talks of from various organizations, talks of like, do we need a green seal to complement a red seal? I know our national office, the Canadian Building Trades Unions, has a study in the works, and others like Canada's Green Building Council have looked at Alberta and Ontario, specifically in the trades, and those studies have provided a good starting insight. The largest driver of change in our industry, though, is demand from project owners or governments. But even if demand for sustainable building standards become the norm, which I'm sure many people on this call today would love, and I hope that that will happen eventually, without an accreditation standard in place for the trades, it's difficult for employers, general contractors, subcontractors. It's difficult for them to determine what skills they should be hiring for to meet tender requirements of these new buildings. And for skilled trades workers, you're basically a contingent workforce. You're likened to an independent contractor in a way. And so the real cost to you of upskilling, whether it's tuition, wages lost, or even getting the time off, is going to need a very high return. That's most likely going to be from employment prospects to motivate you to overcome those barriers and take green building training, whatever that materializes to be. So on the good side, we're getting ahead of it. We have Passive House coming in. It's the first training like this that's going to be available in Manitoba, and I hope the demand and then the pickup of that is going to be really great, and it gives us a good starting point to potentially develop maybe more accessible versions of training for those existing in the workforce already. But other than that, I hope that from either people on this call or make some connections, and we'd love to look at, looking at credit transfers to existing or emerging programs at other local institutions to add more value to the program. And we'll also be building out Passive House structural modules within Manitoba Building Trades Institute. And we don't want to do that just for us. So we're looking at anyone who's interested in a partnership, whether that might be from the design side or other types of application, who'd be interested in getting use out of a Passive House or super high energy efficient home sort of fab lab. We definitely want as much collaboration in that as possible. If we're going to build it, we don't want to be the only ones to use it. So I'm happy to answer any more questions at the end. And again, I'll type our website in there for you to check out information on the training specifically. So thank you for having me.
I'm going to share my screen here. Just very briefly talk to you about one of the many hats that I wear. I'm on the board of Sustainable Building Manitoba, and work for a nonprofit charity, Climate Change Connection. Many of you on the call know me from those, but I'm also working for Engineers Geoscientists Manitoba on this project manager on this BRACE project, building regional adaptation capacity and expertise. So I'm just going to talk to you a little bit about what that is and where it comes from. So this is a project or a program that was initiated by NRCan nationally and has got implementation projects going on right across the country with virtually all of the provinces. And I'm not sure if there's anything going on in the territories, but in all of the provinces. And what it's intended to do is to build capacity amongst professionals and decision makers when it comes to implementing greater climate change resilience and adaptation into their practice. And so here in Manitoba, we're calling it the Manitoba Climate Resilience Training, working with the province of Manitoba. And the way that it's structured here in Manitoba, the BRACE project, is that we've got 4 sectors that each have got a project plan, work plan, managers involved. And so I represent Engineers Geoscientists Manitoba, and the sector that we work on is infrastructure. So we work with architects and engineers and contractors that are and municipalities and municipal managers, CAOs, etc., related to infrastructure. and then there's the planners, and that's led by Prairie Climate Center. The Indigenous decision makers is led by Prairie Climate Center in conjunction with Turtle Lodge and David Kersane and a number of other Indigenous leaders and it's not really a sector separate. We're trying as much as possible to integrate that worldview and Indigenous thinking, Indigenous leadership into the other sectors as well. We're trying not to be as siloed as all that, as this might lead you to believe. And then the other sector is Northern Business, with Dylan Consulting being the leader and manager of that project. And then there's connecting us all together is an integrator, and that's ICLEI, working alongside the province of Manitoba. And so the intention is to develop, or first of all, determine the needs, what kind of training needs are required in this area. So that involves some research and some book learning or Google searches, but it also involves a number of stakeholder engagement sessions to understand what the needs are. And we've just sort of finished that proper. Now we're moving into course development and piloting with the intention of moving towards a series of courses, a set of courses for delivery in the autumn of this year, with this whole project being developed and sort of chugging along by early 2022. And where we're at right now is we've identified, for example, 10 different training themes that we're going to be putting forward into the developing audiences and developing training courses, or in many cases we're just finding training courses that already exist in these different themes and then making them available to our audiences. And there's going to be a lot of overlap between the different sectors, and so some of the training will be actually delivered by one of the other sectors, for example, and maybe slightly modified for our infrastructure sector, and vice versa, that kind of thing. So that, in a nutshell, is what the BRACE project, Building Regional Adaptation Capacity and Expertise project, is all about.